the book of Ruth. Ruth comes in right after Judges because as it begins, it states that there was a famine in the land in the days that the judges ruled. So now there's this man who's called Elimelech who decided that he will leave his land and go to Moab because of the famine. And so he took his wife and his 2 sons and went and lived there. Unfortunately, while they live there, he dies. Elimelech dies, and also the sons now take up Moabite women as wives, Oprah and Ruth, and while they stay there, unfortunately, the sons also die. So Naomi, who is now Elimelech's wife, decides to just go back home, that is to Judah, because now what does she have to do in Moab? And so the daughters-in-law were like going with her, but she really urged them to go back home because their husbands were dead and now it was just them. So Oprah accepted and went back home to her family, but Ruth said that she will still remain with Naomi and that her people will be her people and Naomi's God will be her God. Where she dies, she will die, and all that. So of course they went with Naomi. Ruth now, being with Naomi in Bethlehem, decides to go and glean, and she ends up at Boaz's place, which now happens to be that Boaz is Naomi's relative. She was really treated well by Boaz. So when she went back home, and Naomi was like, "Oh, where were you? Where did you glean?" And Naomi was told by Ruth that she was at Boaz's. So Naomi advised Ruth to go to the threshing floor, that is where Boaz would be, and should dress nicely and go there, and she would get guidance from Boaz. And of course, when that happened, Boaz now redeemed Ruth, courtesy of the actual redeemer refusing to redeem Ruth and Naomi. And so that is how eventually Boaz and Ruth got married, and now Naomi got a child through them as the kinsman redeemer he was. So now the lineage of Elimelech did not die, and they got a son who's called Obed. Naomi nurse was there to be his nurse, and of course now they were very happy and she was considered blessed. And Obed, eventually, you'll see, it's stated that he was the grandfather of David, because he was the father to Jesse and Jesse was the father to David. So this is quite interesting to see how Ruth was really faithful to her mother-in-law. Yeah, so that's the story in between Judges and Samuel, which we will see in the next read.